I love digital media and production. And I actually started back when I was in 5th grade, back in children's church. Back then, it was the cool thing for you to do to be in the back in the sound booth doing sound and pro presenter. So of course, when I got up to 5th and 6th grade, I wanted to do it. And we had a little tiny Yamaha board. It was a little Yamaha 01V from the 90s. And we had a 2008 Mac Mini running Pro Presenter 5 or 6. And it was the most terrible thing. But out of that whole experience, one thing just happened to me. It became more than just a cool thing for me to do. It became something I loved. So after I graduated children's church in 6th grade, I went on to the youth group. I wanted to take a year off because I just felt like at the time, production was just consuming my life in an unhealthy way. Because I hadn't given it to the Lord. I was sort of just keeping it to myself and being very selfish with it. So a year went by and I went to this one meeting with the youth pastor. I remember walking in and just sitting in the circle, and he was like going, so if you guys have any questions about, services we have here or just types of ways you can serve. And I literally raised my hand immediately and was like, excuse me, sir, do you guys have a technical team here at the youth group? And now that I look back on it, I'm so embarrassed. But that was actually my start in lighting. And at that time, Pastor Chris just continued to pour into me. And he even introduced me and got me serving in our main sanctuary production team, which was being led by Nathaniel Estevez at the time. And I continued to grow in that team as well, learning what a cinema camera was, learning sensor sizes, learning good composition, learning ISO, aperture, and it just was amazing. Nathaniel kept on pouring into me, and it was just so rich and amazing. And he kept on giving me opportunities to not just do Sunday mornings, but do Wednesday nights as well, and do special events like concerts that we had going on. And it was just an amazing time of growth because people believed in me and because they wanted me to grow in this craft I loved. But then the unthinkable happened. Pastor Chris, who had served in our church for over 6 years at that point, had the Lord call him to move on to a different church. It broke my heart, not just because he could no longer pour into me, but because he had become such a big mentor theologically and as a man of God. It broke me. And I thought, that's the end. Like, how could God use this to redeem me and just give me more opportunities? I wasn't even thinking about that at the time. I was just thinking about how my mentor was leaving to go to Illinois. But then God turned this situation, which I thought was terrible and absolutely just bad, and he turned it into something good. Our new pastor, named Pastor Michael, who's the new youth pastor here, actually needed somebody to run production for him because he was not as inclined to production as Pastor Chris had been. And he believed in me as well. And then the unthinkable happened again. Nathaniel heard God call him to move on. It broke my heart. The second mentor that I had in my life was also moving on. You thought I would have learned from what God did with Pastor Michael, but I didn't. I didn't know how God was going to redeem that. Because he took that situation and used it to help me to grow again. In that time when he left, I have been able to take on some of his roles as the media director, like doing video announcements and helping do production on Sundays and Wednesdays. And it just helped me grow in not only just the technical side of digital media, but in the relational side of taking all the things that God had gifted me, all the knowledge, and helping others grow as well. So then we don't just keep it to ourselves, but to pass it on to the next generation. And that's where I am today. I would not be at UVF. I would not be at CLC if these men had not taken the time to believe in me and pour into me. And not only my craft of doing production and digital media, but of just being a man of God myself.